Welcome back to Unlearn with Bianca. Today on the podcast, I'm sitting down with Awhina Matthew Egnot. She is a breathwork facilitator and she's leading events and workshops and retreats in the health and wellness space. She is based down in Christchurch and she also does surf, soul, and adventures. Welcome, Awhina. So nice to have you here. This has been a long time coming.
It has been such a long time coming. I love it though. It's always divine timing. And I honestly feel that if we had recorded on those 5 other times over the last couple of years of thinking about it, all of the different versions of me that we would have recorded is just crazy. It's wild to think how we can evolve so fast and so much when we let ourselves.
Definitely. And we have known, just for the listeners listening, Awhina and I have known each other for quite a while. We're both from Christchurch. We went to the same school. It feels like a lifetime ago now. But yeah, we've known each other for a while, and every time I bump into Awhina, there's always a lot of evolution on both parts. So really looking forward to exploring that today and just having a general chit-chat, a catch-up, and I'm sure you guys listening will really relate to some of the conversations we are having about personal growth, the challenges that come with that, the different seasons we go through, and really living a life that feels authentic to our individual value system. So, Awhina, do you just want to start by sharing a little bit about yourself, your journey, and where everything started for you?
Yes, thank you. So I grew up, I was actually Bianca's netball coach back in school days. I was a sporty girl. I then finished school and got into personal training. So my whole life was around the gym, around personal training, around being lean, around being strong, and all about my body. So really physically how I looked. I was living in Perth and I had done bodybuilding and just had this quite successful personal training business. But every single night I was binge eating, so badly. I was eating a whole family block of chocolate, a bag of Doritos, so corn chips, and a massive big 2-liter tub of ice cream, every single night after I had my dinner. And I do this every night for ages. And it wasn't until my housemate one day in the kitchen, I remember he was like, Awhina, this is not normal what you're doing. You have an eating disorder. He said, my mum had one, so I know exactly what it is, and you have one. And in that moment, I remember, I was like, oh my gosh. So I started Googling, as you do, and I came across NLP and hypno and instantly booked myself in with a session with this lady. And I had no idea. I thought it was going to be super woo-woo. I'd never heard of anything to do with mindset and inner work and hypno. And I thought it was this super strange thing. So I went along and had this session. And what I learned was that everything in our life as adults is all coming back to when we're children. So we're all almost like unhealed children walking around in these adults' bodies. And this behavior of this eating disorder, this binge eating, was coming from when I was a little 2-year-old and my dad was looking after me. My parents had separated and my dad would look after me on a Thursday. But he was exhausted because he had 4 kids and super tired and had to work. And so he would fall asleep on the couch. That was his early finish. And I made that mean as a little 2-3-year-old. I made that mean that he didn't love me. So ever since being that little girl, I was using food to fill that space that didn't feel loved. And so I had this session and it changed my life instantly from one session. It was mind-blowing. So I had that awareness that everything in your life is created from when you were young. And I thought, wow, okay, everybody needs this. Everybody needs this. I'm sure it's not just binge eating. It's every little habit of if you can hold on to your goal or if you can achieve a goal and maintain it, or if you self-sabotage. And working in the personal training industry at that time, I was coming across so many women who couldn't actually hold their goals. And there's some and so that obviously I was like, I need to study this because everybody needs this. So I did my NLP training became an NLP practitioner and started incorporating that with my personal training clients. And I was starting to talk about this online, and that's when I remember Bianca coming back into my life from netball high school days. I think you're living in London at the time, and you messaged me asking about NLP because you just started getting interested in it. And I feel like I was the only person talking about this sort of stuff back then.
When did you train? It must have been like 2015 or 16, because I didn't know anyone doing it back when I was training, and you were doing it before that.
I know, yeah, it's wild. It'd be 10 years ago, yes.
So a few questions on that, just that realization around the binge eating, and then having this massive moment where you're like connecting it back to the past and your childhood. Before that, did you think you had any awareness around your behaviors and your habits, or you were just trying to change things at that like habit level, and you didn't have any awareness around subconscious patterns that actually drove these behaviors?
I had absolutely no awareness whatsoever. I was like famous for always saying, just go to the gym. Like any sort of issue in life, just go to the gym. If any emotion was starting to come up, just go to the gym. If you felt sad, go to the gym. If you felt angry, go to the gym. But almost like if everything, you might have not even started to feel the sadness because you would go to the gym before you could feel the feelings. So I was so disconnected. I had my invisible armor of my muscle, like I'd just be lean and strong and had my armor on. So my emotions couldn't get to me. And that was what I did until my binge eating took over my life and I had to do something about it.
Yeah, it's so interesting because I think now that I'm thinking back, you did the competitions and everything, didn't you? Like you were really at
Yeah.
that level. Yeah, wow. So you had this big aha moment. You trained in NLP, you took that into your personal training. And how did that shift the way you were doing personal training back then? Were clients relating and really getting on board with what you were teaching?
Yeah. The thing is, after a while, I realized that there was so much more to life.
Mm-hmm.
Then the more I connected to myself, I realized I was so sick of talking about our physical body. I was so
Mm-hmm.
sick of hearing about the diets and hearing about how we looked when I realized there's so much more to life. And so I started to resent the industry. And then so that's what sort of took me to my new place of life. I had always wanted to, actually, no, that's a lie. I had not always wanted to open a gym. I was surrounded by a lot of people who had their own gyms, and I thought that would be really cool. I would be successful. My dad would love me if I had a gym. So I think I was about 29, and I put all the money I had. I borrowed money off my partner at the time. I borrowed money off my parents, and I put all my money into opening a gym in Christchurch. And I realized that I hated it. That was not what my life path was. And then I was very lucky that I fell pregnant at that time, and that became an easy way to get out of opening this gym. So I became a mum, which was super challenging. Like it's how it felt was as if my whole life was on a whiteboard and it was this beautiful drawing. And somebody just got this marker and came and wiped it all off. And I had this plain whiteboard in front of me, and I had the opportunity to create this new life, but I had absolutely no idea what I wanted to put on it. And it was scary. It was so scary.
Mm-hmm.
And then during that time, my mum had just been diagnosed with a motor neuron disease, a really fast acting one. And so I started to delve into the healing world even more. And I'm really lucky that I had that awareness already of the mindset and the inner work, that I knew people to start to heal myself more. So I was healing the grief before mum had actually passed away. But I was also healing the grief from my brother passing when I was little. So he was born with the heart condition. So
Mm.
I hadn't processed that grief, and so when my mum was dying, I got to process the grief from being a child and my brother passing, and then processing the grief of my mum passing before she passed.
Wow, there's so much. We need to explore this a bit. But I just want to say, like, that, I don't know, I feel like I had a similar phase, and I'm not yet a parent, so I can only imagine you go through many iterations of like, what the fuck am I doing? This is a whole new me. But that those moments in our life where everything happens at once and we're forced to go to look at ourselves again and again, like you dealing with being a new mum, your mum getting diagnosed with, was it terminal at that point? I'd assume so.
Yeah.
And then grief coming up from the past, that must have just been such a unstabilizing period to navigate.
And then on top of that is I didn't want to be a personal trainer anymore either. So my whole identity of Awhina, the personal trainer, which had been something I'd been for over 10 years, I didn't want to be that person either. So it was literally like everywhere around me. It was just like, oh my gosh, who am I? What do I want to do in the world? Just, yeah.
If you don't mind, as we talk on that, just that period for a bit, how did you connect the dots of grief that perhaps hadn't been processed around your brother and then dealing with your mum as well?
So I started working with different healers in the way I wanted to start to uncover my next business or what I wanted to do for work.
Yeah.
And obviously, when you're somebody who works for yourself, your external world is like a reflection of your internal world. So I'm working with different coaches, trying to work out like what my purpose is, what my passion is, what I want to help people with. But obviously, it's just uncovering all of this grief. So I was working with, I was actually at the time working with Hella Weston from Awaken before they were massive with Awaken. So I was working with her one-on-one. And then I was working with another woman, Laura Lee, who we were doing more past lives and everything. So there was so much healing that was getting to take place. And it was just, my body was ready to uncover, to feel the grief from the past. And honestly, it's still like, I think there's going to be new layers. There's always new layers. I remember my first healing session 25 years ago coming out and being like, yes, that is it. I am healed. I am done. And oh my God, the more awareness you have, the more you keep going on this healing journey. It's like, I don't know. Does it ever stop? I really don't know.
That's an interesting one. I think in terms of business and, creating the life you love, there's a constant evolution and you always need to, which we might talk on at the end, like turn the spotlight towards yourself to see where your blocks are. But in terms of what I'm learning, and as you know, like grief is an ongoing process and there's always secondary grief that pops up at the most randomest of times and moments where you think you're fine, you're not fine, and vice versa. Life expands around us, but as you said, it's an evolution. And the other thing I was going to say on that is it's also knowing when to be doing the inner work versus actually just living and enjoying our life, because it's so counterproductive to constantly feel like there has to be more growth and more to do. I think we can miss joy in the small moments as well. That's what I'm learning at least.
Yeah, that is one of my big learnings at the moment is to is to be in each level. Like each thing you learn, then just like be in that level. And then, when the stuff comes up, then be in that level, heal and be in that level. It can be, because I think when you do your healing and you get to the other side, it's such a nice feeling. So you're like, let's fucking go. What else is there? What else is there? Rather than just stopping and just allowing it to really sink in and be that new version of you. But
you can definitely get addicted to certain things, I believe, just like anything else, other coping mechanisms. So as you were navigating this season of change and transformation, what did that look like for you and how did you shift internally through that?
Yeah, so obviously I was, and at this stage I was still quite, like I'm not as deep with my emotions, everything. Like now I feel like one of my superpowers is like, I don't know if it's a superpower, it's one of those things where it's like your strength and your weakness. Some people are like, why can't you just like get up and like walk to that door? I'm like, because I don't want to just stop at the door. I want to walk all the way past the door. I want to go over the fence. I want to climb over there. I want to do that thing that hasn't been done before that I don't think that I can do, but deep down. And I just go on these tangents of that. It's like my radical self-awareness is so strong and it's a real blessing, but it can just lead me to like have to Like yesterday, I spent 2 hours like in sacred rage, crying, allowing like all my emotions to come up, but like in a good way, because it was like one thing I needed to do. And some people will be like, well, why didn't you just do the thing? I was like, well,
Yeah.
first I had to feel that wound and I had to let it move through my body. But honestly, this is working for me now, is really feeling what's in my body, because I spent my first 25 years not crying, and I had big things like my parents separating, my brother dying, like big things happen, and I was just so disconnected from my body and my emotions. Everything was so suppressed.
Let's talk about that at the end, because I feel like you said, it's a relatively new way of being for you, and I really want to connect into what that means for people that have been in that place of disconnection. I definitely have, and how that would look for you on a day-to-day basis, connecting into your body. Yeah, I guess when you were navigating the grief and coming out the other side, were you still an NLP practitioner at that point? The gym was behind you? What was your next phase?
The next thing was I was doing my healing around the grief, and it was in that first year of motherhood. So I was having 2 years off to be a mum, but doing my inner work, my healing whilst that was happening. But in my sessions with Laura Lee, I'd always be doing this meditation, and I could see myself leading women on the beach. I was on the beach and with a group of women in front of me, and I was leading them. But for the life of me, every single time I could never see what I was leading them at. And I knew it wasn't anything I'd done in the past. And it was frustrating as hell. I just wanted to know what I was doing, who these women were, what, like, was I teaching? Was I just like, what was it? And it would just happen time and time again. I'd go back to the same place. And it was this beautiful vision, but it was so frustrating. It's so frustrating. So I always tell people, I often have people come into my world when they're like, I don't know what to do. There's all these things I could do, but what do I do? How do you know? How do you make the change? And honestly, it's just trust. Like eventually it all, like when you are ready, the universe is like, boom, let's fucking go. You got this now. So that's what happened with me with starting Surf and Soul Adventures. It's a retreat day for women. It was all the things I loved: surfing, inner work, yoga. Well, the funny thing was yoga is in there because I need to do yoga and I don't. So it's like, if I do a retreat day once a month with yoga, there is my monthly yoga done. So
I love that. I love that initiative.
yeah. So that was that evolved, and I got the final downloads of that doing a breathwork journey, which was super cool. I realized that I don't have to do everything. I was in that stage where I was thinking, I'm going to have to go and train to be a yoga teacher. I'm going to have to train to do this. I'm going to have to train to do this, forgetting there is thousands of amazing women around me that is their passion, that is their gift, and I can hold the space, I can create the community, and I can call the women in, and they can share their gifts with the world. So that's what I started doing, and it was so much fun. It was amazing. It was after COVID, so everybody was really craving that in-person connection as well, and there was just really nothing like it. So I did that. That was what I did over summers for, I think, maybe 2 years. 2 years.
After the passing of your mum, or around that same time as well,
Yeah.
wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because I have seen lots of photos and stories of the Surf Soul and Adventures, and it just looks like so much fun. Like, that must have been really healing as well, just being around like-minded women. Well-being events in Christchurch especially, I feel like, were few and far between, especially.
There was nothing. There was really, like, there's more stuff coming now, but there was really nothing back then. And then also incorporating that fun. Like, fun is such one of my core values, and it just lights me up. So getting to, when we're young and we're at school, everything's provided for us. We have all these opportunities, and the older we get, the harder it is to go do the thing. We're already so like energetically capacity to then research something to do and then try and hustle a few friends to do it, and then no one wants to do it, so you just don't do it. So I was like, right, provide everything, you just make the call when it feels right and you come along and everything's done for you. So
yeah, absolutely. I'm curious about like the mental process you went through to actually trust yourself to start that, and stepping into something that you obviously had these downloads and these visions of, I want to do something like this. But a lot of people would be thinking, I've got this inkling to start this thing. I know that there's something on the side I could be doing. Where did you get that courage to step into that more?
This is the thing. It was honestly from doing my inner healing. It started from healing the grief, seeing the vision. Well, actually, it started from being frustrated. It's frustrated that I didn't want the life I used to have. So it's
Yes.
like that deep frustration, and then like, what the fuck am I going to do about this now? I know I don't want what I've got. I like, what am I going to do? So I had that frustration first and for a while. And then I was like, okay, then it's like the universe gave me some things to heal with my mum passing, a pretty big thing to heal. So it led me down that journey of healing to find out how I am. So that's when the new ideas started to come through. And then so from there, it was like, what do I love? What do I love? What lights me up? Almost forgetting about any other, like forgetting about having to make money, forgetting about having to pay bills. It's, if I could do something for free, what would I do? Because at the end of the day, our work is like, we have one life. Who knows? We both know that it can be cut short.
That's also when my sensitivity really increased. And after losing my mum, it was within a year, I think, of each other. We both went through that, literally a year, I think, to the day. But what a lot of people probably don't realize, but like nothing else really matters when you go through something like that. You just shift at a cellular level, and you realize that nothing matters in those years after, or at least initially. So I can so see how you went through that process of like, what would I do if it was for free? Because you just realize that life is so short. And when you are moving through deep grief and then you step out into the real world and everyone's complaining about things, and I've been in this job that I hate for 3 years, but I'm going to continue to complain about it. You actually, I mean, look, we all do it still, but you have less patience for seeing that. And I think your internal compass gets turned up and really tuned in when you realize the importance of living in alignment, which can come through when we go through major life events.
100%. So yeah, so it was like, if anyone's feeling in that stuck place, it's like noticing that you actually don't have to stay in that stuck place. And then I'd say start to do the inner work. So I feel like there's that meme or that saying, it's like, when you don't know what to work on yourself. So start working on yourself. You'll start to uncover things that you enjoy. You'll start to gain confidence. So it was from doing my inner work, I got the confidence to actually take action on this new thing. So I was like, holy shit, I've never done this before. Like, who am I? Who am I to do this? Who am I to start a day retreat for women? I was a personal trainer. Like, what the hell? Like, I surf, but I'm not a surf instructor. I don't even do yoga. I'm putting yoga in here, so I do the yoga. Like, it was just, it was just wild. It was absolutely wild. But once I decided to take the action, that this was the thing, the universe was just like bang, 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 like everything. It was like, I made an Instagram page. I put up a thing. It was like 48 people filled it out in 12 hours. I put up a date and I had 14 women signed up in like 24 hours. It was just, I really do just want to have that chat around, the universe will support you when you work with the universe, when you co-create, when you have the courage to take that action that you know you should from your heart or your soul. The universe will support you. And it does. I've got times and times and times in my life where this just keeps happening, and it really builds my trust. And that's another thing. So yeah, do your inner work, take the action. The universe will support you. And the more you start to feel that support and see the proof of the universe supporting you, the more you can continue it.
Two things you said stuck out to me there, the word courage, because it is really courage. It's actually not at the first sign or feeling of discomfort turning your back on that and actually understanding that's part of the process. Anyone that's started a business or done anything that's different than the path they were on will know it's not a comfortable thing, but it just takes courage taking steps in that direction. But the other thing I just wanted to highlight for listeners is this term inner work. So when Awhina is saying that, essentially it just means looking at yourself, your habits, your beliefs, your perhaps I say the word trauma, but anything that's emotions that are you've never dealt with. And people can do inner work in so many different ways, breath work, the stuff I teach. There's a whole lot of different things, but it's reflection and realizing that life is not happening to you. You actually have so much influence when we start to take that responsibility, which can be very confronting. A lot.
And that's it, yeah, just literally anything, meditation, journaling, just all start to be aware of yourself. When you start to be aware of all of the stuff that you've going on, you with meditation, journaling, any sort of inner work, you can then start to share. It creates connection. It creates stronger connection. Sharing these sort of you realize that you are not your. That's what I'm trying to say. You realize you are not your emotions, and we can often be really almost embarrassed or ashamed that we've got these feelings, and we're like, oh, we just add this extra layer of hiding on top of hiding. But the more you start to share stuff, like I often get people say like, oh, wow, that's so brave, like to share that so vulnerable. And I don't even think I share so much that it doesn't even feel vulnerable to me. And I'm always like, what? And then I think, oh shit, like, are they like, wow, she's really weird?
It's interesting though. That's a level of peace that you get within yourself when you've made peace or you've worked through your past as well, because you realize that actually everyone has the same emotions. Like, it's not good, bad, it's not positive thinking. It's that everyone's going to feel dark emotions, have heavy emotions. I think we unconsciously turn away from them or just use coping mechanisms, the gym, like shopping, sex, like all these things, just to not have to look at them, which is normal, again, like to feel that way, but it's just not productive in trying to get the life that you want to create.
Yeah, like I feel like if you're happy, hating your job and just doing your mediocre, like, having fun, going for your Friday night drinks or just a few things, yeah, like that's cool. Like, and it's like, I feel like we all get these missions in life, and some of us, we get these big healing things that we almost have no choice but to go and do the inner work so we can actually live, like grief and like big things. And then some people don't, and they still be like, there must be more. Like, it's just whatever feels right for your soul and your heart to
Yeah.
dive into. Like,
Yeah, I agree. And that actually is a lesson that I've really learned over the years is just acceptance of where people are at and what their life choices and what they choose to do, because ultimately we know what's best for us. I used to be quite righteous and think, I can see like a better option that they could take, or like a different choice, or if you knew how amazing you were in this area, maybe you'd step into that. It's like so much of my energy was going on trying to like direct others in a kind way that I'd forget about myself. And like, who am I to do that? You have to come to that realization within if you want to change. No one else can do that for you. You have to get to that point where you have that uncomfortable feeling that there must be more. And if you're getting that feeling, it's probably because there is meant to be more.
100%, 100%. And that's when you have that courageous action and do some inner work.
Absolutely. So, I guess if we circle back to your path and your journey, and you started Surf and Soul Adventures, and then anything else from there, because I know you do breathwork now, so it's a few things more recently.
Yeah, so then I did that for a couple of years, and then I made the hardest decision I've ever had to make in my life. So often with my healing in the past, it's things that have happened and I've had no choice but to heal. But I decided in 2023, me and my partner mutually decided to separate after 15 years.
Mm.
An amazing wee 4-year-old daughter, and a lot of like nice house and holidays and beautiful daughter and cute wee dog, but I was getting that call, there's something else. And just like going back to that grief after my mum passed away, it was just like, oh my gosh, one life. Like, are we living? Like, are we living? Are we both living? And at the end of the day, we weren't. We were like, in the same house, but we weren't doing things together. We weren't doing things separately. We weren't, we were just quite, our life had become quite vanilla.
Mm.
and I'm not here for a vanilla life. And so we decided, and it was just so painful, like so painful when you love someone like with all your heart, that
Mm.
you know that you're not living to you're not thriving, and getting that reminder of how life can just end
Mm.
from my mum passing. It was like we had to make that such painful decision to separate, and so that again led me down a new healing journey. New.
Ask you just a question on that. In my sphere at the moment, I'm not in a relationship currently, but I get a lot of people that are feeling that same way, and I'm sure you do as well. Would there be any words of wisdom for anyone that is feeling that way, or would it just be going through their own internal process?
I think just come back to your heart. Like every time you have an opportunity to come back to your heart and listen to your heart and speak from your heart, and just know that when you do that, the response you get, it's you've done your bit. Like you have done your bit by sharing from your heart. And whatever the person coming back to you with, that's their issue, that's them. So
Mm.
as long as you speak from your heart, that's you're doing what you can, and that's just my only advice. And then to get support. Like again, I'm so lucky that I know so many different
People.
therapies and inner work and stuff like that got to support me through that. And we have such an amazing co-parenting relationship now. Like it's so
Beautiful.
nice. We're generally so stoked for each other. We can hang out. Like it was our daughter's birthday the other week, and so we took her to time zone to like play for like as like as a co-parenting thing. And because my parents separated when I was young, and I like my parents, I don't remember them ever being in the same room, so I almost have this like book of how I don't want it to be. And so it's like we have a manual of what we don't want. And so now we get to recreate it, and we just have such an awesome co-parenting relationship. So, and that's like a testament to him doing his inner work as well, which is new to him to do that, and for me to continue doing my inner work as well. And it's such a hard time. It's such a probably the most painful thing that you need to choose in life.
Oh, I can only imagine on the back of grief, which is also extremely isolating, and then doing that again, which is a different form of grief. Yeah, I take my hat off to you, and I think it's a beautiful testament to you and your courage, because here you are,
Mm.
still moving and moving in the direction that feels aligned with you. And I'm sure you've inspired a lot of people just listening by hearing that. What is on for you now as you're moving into another era, and what else has changed since then?
Yeah, so then from there, one of the biggest modalities that was supporting me was breath work. So I've been doing breath work myself for 6 years now. And then so as per when I do something that I enjoy, I end up being trained in that too to to help people. So I became a breathwork facilitator. I started gosh, I feel like there's so many other little bits in there, like when I think about it. But so I became a breathwork facilitator, and that is the main thing that I do currently as of the 13th of March when we're recording. So I do one-on-ones, groups. My absolute passion is being in front of a group of women and sharing who I am, sharing what's helped me, creating a really safe space for people to share from their heart, to people to finally let their guard down. I always talk about out in the world, you've got to be a certain person, got to be, whatever job, a parent, a partner, whatever it is. And then when you come into my spaces, you can finally relax. You can take off all the masks that you have to wear, all the things that you have to wear, and you can just be you. And that is what I absolutely love doing in this world. And so at the moment, it's mostly through breath work. I also last year started Soul Space. Um, co-started Soul Space, which has evolved already. I feel like evolving is one of my favorite things to do. um, but so at Soul Space, we were doing events, wellness events, and that has evolved even more to, is it just me, or like, do you get ideas come to you in the shower? Do you get shower?
I get ideas all the time, and they don't stop unless I
Yeah.
listen, which can be frustrating because yes, it is in the shower, but shower ideas, yes.
Shower idea. So I had a shower idea a couple of months ago, and it was literally just like boom, 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 boom. And then I get like, I know, okay, take some action. And it was all about bringing together women from the wellness space who work for themselves, who, we're people, but we're always on our own because we work for ourselves or we're with clients. And it's like, we want connection, we want community, we want support, we all want to grow. And I created this heart-led hustlers event, and it sold out like instantly. I had 48 people click on my I feel like this, I said 48 for something else as well, but it's not. It was 48 was for this, and sold out instantly. And it was just the most amazing night of networking. So all about redefining networking. It was beautiful. From, one of the girls turned up with her pretty fresh baby so she could be there, and doing sound bowl healing to start the night, and you could hear the wee baby just sucking its thumb or something like that, and then everyone's eating, and the other women are holding the baby for the mum. Just this new way of business in women, like a real feminine flow, rather than popping on your blazer and having to be in a certain environment. We come
Yeah.
as we are. We start with sound bowls. We ground into the space. Everyone has a seat at this table. I talked about how all about collaboration over competition. I feel like there's in the old way of life, it was almost like females were forced to be in competition because there wasn't enough seats for the females. There was like at one seat for women out of like 20
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. So it was like competition to get that one female seat. So I had this full download. It was just coming through to me so strong how we can create our own table. And there's seats for everyone. Like whether if you just have an idea that you haven't taken action on with, or if you've been in business and you're thriving, it's like there is a seat. We can all learn from each other. And it's this new thing that's evolving again for me to grow and to grow the community more in this way. And I'm just so lit up for it. I cannot wait to
So exciting. Oh, there's so many things. I get so excited just listening to you say that, because one thing that I do feel like I'm gifted with is being able to see what is going to, it sounds a bit strange on a podcast, but being able to see the trends that will be happening and where we're heading collectively.
Yeah.
And community is definitely one. And then you touched on the woman, living a different way, which I want to speak on too. But I so agree with being in business, especially like solopreneurs, what are they called? It's actually really, guys listening, don't think it's super glamorous, because it can be very lonely if you don't take time to actually network. And, I guess knowing other people in this space, there's amazing people doing things out there, but it's still a small portion of what people do when they're in business, like the mental health or the mind body connection or healing. It's still relatively small if you think about all the types of businesses out there. So having that space, I think, is such a cool thing to do, and so needed. I think the way we're operating, especially for women not even trying to, we often don't get a choice of doing things alone.
It's like in between, your soul's calling you to do something, but you also have to parent or whatever. It's like, how can we do it all? Like we get to do it all, but we need to change how we think that is. So, yeah.
I've thought about this so much lately, and it's like, I'm not even a parent, but maybe because of the loss of my mum, I constantly think about dynamics and the village mentality and support and things. And, like there's so many things I think will change in terms of the way we even live, because it's like so unsustainable to live paying a mortgage off, living, like a nuclear family. There's just a lot of things that I think people aren't feeling fulfilled in. That's more of like one situation, but especially when it comes to work, it's so hard to create when you're trying to constantly do things by yourself. And so many people share similar ideas, as I'm sure you've seen with these events, but actually bumping into people being sparked up to create. It's so powerful to have that, to facilitate that space.
It was so amazing. And honestly, the event I ran, I gave everyone opportunity just to speak. And I know it can be really uncomfortable for people, and just really encouraging people to give it a go and just to share who they are, what they do, why they do it. And it was just beautiful. You know, there was tears, there was laughter, there was smiles. Everyone was like, wow, we're all the same. We all have the same struggles, no matter if you've been doing it for ages or you've just got the idea. And it was just so nice to normalize the whole journey and to feel so supported and inspired. And I was like, wow, okay, yep, I'm getting the messages, universe.
She's doing the thing. I actually saw a Instagram post I think it was a few days ago on International Women's Day, and you said something about why do we celebrate strong women? Don't quote me. I'm sure you'll remember it. But I would love for you to expand on what you said on that post. And
Yeah.
I know a lot of people were liking and commenting on that post. So obviously, a lot of people are feeling that way.
So what I noticed was on International Women's Day, like 99% of the posts were like celebrating the strong woman on this day, celebrating the strong, like it was every single thing was about the strong woman. And I was like, awesome, yeah, cool. Like I really align, like, you know, like I've always wanted to be a strong woman, but I saw strong as being shut off from our emotions, pushing on through when we actually need rest, not listening to us, doing things because we have to, you know, that real almost trying to compete with the masculine way of go, 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 when feminine energy is, you know, the creative, the intuition, the flow, the soft. And these things are all new for me to start to honor. And I was thinking, well, there's, of course, they're new to me to honor when I've always honored strength and wanted to be strong, seen as strong. And it was just wild to see no posts honoring those female traits. It was all honoring strong. It was like, no wonder we all burn out. No wonder we just go, 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 go when the world is really admiring the hustle, the
you're
go.
validated for the achievements and the hustle.
Exactly.
And strong to me also has that connotation that we have to hold it all together. And
exactly, 100%. That's exactly it. Exactly it. And I always thought that.
Yeah, me too. And I guess like what might help some of the audience listening, because I've actually spoken quite a bit on masculine, feminine energy and relationships. It's something that I've been on my own journey with in the last few years. But for someone who is navigating a lot of changes, going through the grief, going through maybe the separation, new kids, you know, where do you think those micro moments are that you can really lean into feminine energy? It might actually just be in allowing emotions to come to the surface for someone.
Yeah, like this whole new way of living that I've been living the last year of stopping and allowing the emotions and not just allowing them. Like I'm talking shutting the curtains, shutting the windows and express it, like feeling. I'm talking 10 timesing that emotion. If I'm feeling off, I can tune in what's the emotion. Okay, sadness. I'll pop on some music and I will amplify the feeling of sadness in my body. And I will feel it. I will allow it to move through my body. I will allow the tears, the ugly tears. I'll almost just bring it up as much as I can so it can shift, so it can flow, so it can move out of my body. One of my favorite ways to describe emotions is of a beautiful flowing river. Like if you think somewhere in the West Coast, beautiful flowing river, and it's so strong and powerful and flowing and just, oh, it's just beautiful. But then next to that river, there's a rock and it's blocking that river off and it's created this stagnant pool of water where the water's not able to flow. And there's now like bugs in there. The water's changed from that beautiful color to like a murky color. And that's how I like to describe our emotions, is when we are not allowing them to flow, they turn into that stagnant pool of water and they're not beautiful. Like it's not thriving, healthy, pure water. It is disease infested yuck water. And so when we give ourselves that space to remove that rock, remove our shell, remove our protection and allow that emotion, allow the water to flow, it just all flows back into this powerful, beautiful, flowing river, which is, I just love describing it like that to people.
Yeah. Feeling is a really important thing. I've spoken on this before, but I think for me personally, I see it somewhere as having the ability to feel and not also getting stuck too much in the feeling to the point where it's dragging you under. And that actually is like a constant process, like finding that middle ground, honoring any feelings, and then just feeling like everyone else's stuff as well is making you feel a certain way. Like I think there's that healthy medium when we can feel it and process it through our body. And again, for people that are like, what is process it through your body? That could literally be allowing yourself first to just honor your emotions, let them come up to the surface. It could be tears, it could be moving your body in an intuitive way, it could be shaking, like some of these practices I take my clients through, especially on self-source, and I'm sure Awhina does. But if you'd asked me even 10 years ago saying feel your feelings, like half the reason why I got sick is because I didn't honor my anger and sadness from the trauma I experienced during the earthquakes. I didn't even connect that that was a feeling. So I just didn't have that awareness of like, this is an emotion I'm allowed to feel.
I always remember my mum, like, trying to help me express my emotions and trying to get me to slow down. You should always say, slow down, Awhina, slow down. And there was no way, because I'd probably cry if I slowed down. Like, who knows what would happen. So, no, absolutely not.
Yeah, and I think if we go back to that feminine energy thing, like even just having that awareness of like, I'm allowed to feel, that is a step in the right direction. For me, it's also allowing people receiving, so being open to receiving support or seeking support and asking for support and saying, I need support.
Literally this week, like, I'm learning, learning to receive. And the more I learn to receive, the more clients come into my space and I get to share and I get to help change their lives. And so it's like my responsibility to get into that energy, to feel safe to receive, to allow receiving. And like even yesterday, I just did a post on this before, but I got a facial yesterday, and I'm so used to self-care and looking after myself as something painful. I got like look after myself by having a hard workout. Like, that's looking after myself. I look after myself by doing a breathwork session, exploring the pain and letting it go, and that's looking after myself. And then I was having this facial, feeling that support, like another woman like holding my body and supporting me, and just it was like, wow, okay, this gets to happen too. Like, I get to receive receive this support too. I get to be nourished by somebody else, like allowing that. So I'll be getting facials every week now.
Massages, because actually even at a nervous system level, physical touch is actually really important. So whether it be a facial massage, that's why I go to Bali, because you get like $10 massages, you can go every second day. But that is actually a really important part of self-care, and as you said, just teaching your nervous system that it is safe to receive. I think it can be powerful. Yeah. Anything you want to add to that conversation?
I think something that I found really interesting from the facial was learning about how much tightness was in my face. There was so much in my jaw and my muscles. I've noticed I've been clenching my jaw in my sleep. So understanding like how my body's actually been quite stressed when I think that I'm okay, but it's all showing in my face. Like, I feel like I should do like a promo for like this for getting a facial. But it was really cool, like understanding like how the emotions, when we frown and when we've got frown lines, it's like our body's naturally angry and frowning, like with there's lots of different emotions stored in our body. And I just found that so cool. And so, just made so much sense. So that's
yeah, definitely. I've found that super interesting too. Like often with my clients as well, when I see them shift internally, externally, they like their whole face softens or their color changes. I always find that interesting. But I also find it really interesting that our jaw and our throat are connected into our womb energetically. So I'm actually going to do it right now. If you let go of your jaw, you can actually feel your pelvic floor soften. And it's hard to clench, like have one clench in the other without, if you practice letting go of your jaw. So
so relaxed.
um, yeah, it's so fascinating. I'd love to have someone on to speak more about certain parts of the body and tension and
Mhm.
patterns in the body. So, gosh, we could talk for hours. Honestly, I feel like I'm only touching the surface. And because I haven't spoken to you in quite a while, there's like so many things I could talk on. But yeah, I'm curious to know like what your goals and hopes are aside from this beautiful space you're creating. And also, any advice you would give to women that are really resonating with your story and your journey. There may be something that you haven't yet shared.
So the advice that I'd give to women would be that there's actually so much support out there for anything that you're going through. There's hundreds of people who are also going through it or who are a few steps ahead of you. You know, we often think that we're the only person in the world that's going through something. And then all of a sudden we speak what's actually happening and we realize there's so many people around us experiencing the same thing. Like I remember the first time I noticed that was talking about my binge eating, and then it turned out that like everyone around me was also doing the same, and I was so ashamed, so embarrassed, thinking I was the only person in the world, where even my coaches, like my personal training coaches, were going through it too. The same thing with separating. Like I just felt so embarrassed. I felt so ashamed, like I was the only person in the world again going through separation. Turns out so many people were. And then there's people a few steps ahead of me that I could learn from, that they could explain stuff to me, like that I could, so whenever you're going through a change, whenever you get that call to make a change, or if the change has been forced on you, speak up. Find one person, start Googling. Like there's so many people like Bianca, like myself, like anyone in our world. There's so much support out there for you, and you are not the only person going through this. And there's like people want to help. People want to help you. So just remember, people want to help you. That's what I'd say to people.
Beautiful. I love that. And then what are your visions aside from that? Is there anything else exciting or anything that you're working on internally that, yeah.
So at the moment, I'm working on it's this new level for me. I can see I've got this vision. It's like there's more. Like everything that I'm doing is just going to amplify. Like I don't even know how to speak. Like the vision is so strong in my head, and so what I need to do is just keep working on myself to create the courage to go bigger in my life, to take action on these bigger dreams. Because I know that I'm here for big impact. You know, the universe has blessed me with these, with this journey, with these cards in life, and I know that I'm here to hold space for a lot of people, to create amazing things, and to dream bigger, to set the example, to be that lighthouse for other people to do the same. So yes, I'm currently in this wormhole of healing some stuff, as I do, as you've learned over this conversation, to bring some bigger things to life and really, really support other women, whether if it's just in business, I mean, just in life, or if it's in business, and just holding the space, shining my light strong, and continuing to do the inner work and being the example for others. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing so openly. Like I share openly. I like you said, it's like kind of natural to you. It's natural to me. So I really hope that people have like really found themselves in some part of this conversation, because I think it's super inspiring. And now that you've actually said what you are going to be stepping into, because it will happen, I'm sure others can't wait to follow your journey. I'll definitely be keeping up with everything. And yeah, it's just a testament to all the work you've done on yourself and all the evolutions you've gone through. What you have had to let go of along the way, I'm sure, is just massive. Yeah, I see that in you. If people want to follow your journey and keep up with all the amazing offerings that are coming, where can they find you?
So I live on Instagram. I'm trying to set some boundaries, but I still live there. Awhina Matthew Egnot. Come find me there. I also do have Surf and Soul Adventures and Soul Space Christchurch. But come to my page, Awhina Matthews Egnot, and then see which direction you want to go. looking forward to seeing you there.
Put all the details in the show notes so you guys can just click through. Thank you so much, Awhina. It's been amazing to chat.
Thank you for having me. I love this. Can't wait for us to both evolve and do it again and see what's going on in our lives.
Yeah, we'll get you back in a year and I'm sure there'll be new changes.
Gosh, oh my God. Yeah. Thanks, Bianca.
See you next time.